Great pleasure in commending this bill to the House.
I call the honourable member, Dr Clark.
Yes, thank you, Mr Speaker. I didn't have to wait too long, it turned out. The national member felt there wasn't much to contribute on this bill, clearly. We will be supporting this bill as a Labor Party because it seems that the powers in it are sensible, at least worth discussing at Select Committee. Of course, the Cullen Fund was started under the Labor government, and since its inception in 2003, the fund has returned 9.55% a year, well exceeding static investments in banks and the like. This government, on the other hand, has a shocking record on savings. They suspended the payments to that fund. They have borrowed more money than any government. They've outborrowed Muldoon. And that is a pretty shocking statistic. This is the government that has borrowed and borrowed and borrowed. And as we all know, it has the worst economic record of any government in the last 50 years. And that is quite an achievement. And of course, on average, Mr Speaker, we know that since World War II, Labor governments have grown the economy faster and more than national governments. And that in itself is not known by every citizen, that national governments on average since World War II have grown the economy by 2.9%. And, you know, that's not bad for second place. But it is only a two-horse race, and let's not forget that. Labor governments since World War II have on average grown the economy 3.7%, thereby growing the economy faster. Labor governments have proven themselves to make the big strategic decisions, and that is why what we're tinkering with here is a Labor initiative. If you want tinkering, National is the party for you. They are interested in tactical moves, Mr Speaker, and Labor, of course, is interested in the big decisions, the strategic decisions that need to be taken when the economy has challenges that need to be faced. Let's look at employer contributions in the KiwiSaver scheme. It was 4% when this government took over. They took it down to 2%, and then round they went, back up again to 3%. This is a government that has no idea where it's going. 1 minute it's down, the next minute it's up. It's suspending this payment, it's borrowing money, and now we have a little bit of freeing up for the super fund. Well, this is sensible, and Labor will support sensible steps on the odd occasion that this government's prepared to make them. But, Mr Speaker, we are more focused on the big issues, on making sure that New Zealanders face lower power prices. And we're thinking of things like our New Zealand power policy, which will reduce power for businesses, power costs by about 5% per annum. And that is significant. Kiwi households will have their power prices lowered by about several $100s per year, $300 to $500 per year for New Zealand households. That is significant. This government's prepared to let things beetle along, ticking out of control, slowly getting worse, managing decline, and they regard that as okay because they are now arrogant and out of touch. They're jollying themselves over there, they're kind of cheerful, they're enjoying being on that side of the house, but they've got no real ideas. They don't have an idea about how they're going to take this economy forward, how they are going to ensure economic growth in this country. They're busy trying to work out who their coalition partners might be, whether it's crazy Colin Craig and Ms Barry, I note, is nervous about her seat, and well, she might be. The fundraising for the National Party is down in the North Shore, and the party instrument is unhappy about that. They're worried about Jamie, what's his name, the new guy from ACT, who wants everyone to consider marrying their family members. That's the partners they've got. They're worried about the problem of trying to get back into government at any cost. They don't have the ideas to back it up. Now, I've talked about New Zealand Power. I'll talk also about Kiwi Build. And Labor is going to partner with industry to build 10,000 houses per annum because we recognise that there is a problem that needs fixing. This government is content to leave it to the market. I'm sure Sam Lotuinga, the Minister, will leap to his feet shortly to say that the market will solve all of these things. It's like Simon Bridges, who says that New Zealand Power is not going to work, the Labor plan, it's too big, it's too bold, the market just needs to settle down, just needs a bit more time to bed in, he said, after 15 years in place and power prices still going up out of control. $4.3 billion worth of price gouging in the early 2000s. Simon Bridges said it just needs a little more time to bed in. That shows you how out of touch they've become on that side of the house. They're looking after their own interests and the interests of a privileged few, and that is coming at the expense of all New Zealanders. National is watching the gap between rich and poor grow and grow and grow. And Mr. Speaker, we know it is at the highest levels it has ever been since proper statistics were recorded. And we know that hungry kids don't learn properly. So if we have a policy like Best Start that Labor has, it's going to make sure there's a little bit more money in those family households so that kids do have enough to eat in the morning. We're going to actually have better outcomes for the longer term. That's the strategic thinking, the long-term thinking, the kind of change a Labor government will bring, not the tactical, short-term penny pinching that you get from a national government that only gives tax cuts to the wealthy. We know those 2010 tax cuts, 40% of the value went to the top 20% of earners. Just 2% to the top 10%, just 2% went to the bottom 20% of earners. And so that gap between rich and poor grows and grows and grows. And it's those people in the middle that are feeling squeezed the most. They are feeling squeezed because they're watching the cost of living go up. Power prices out of control. A government that's happy to leave it to the market, thinks that power prices are about right, says Mr. Key, thinks they're about right. They're prepared not to tackle the housing issue. The market will sort it out. Garages are being built. What's wrong? Where's the problem? That's the National Party answer. And today, Mr. Speaker, we've seen another great announcement from the Labor Party that is looking to make real change that will matter, and that is for the forestry sector. A really comprehensive plan that will give proper tax incentives to build new processing so we have value-added products, not just volume going off at the shipping containers. This is a plan that is bold, that will make real difference for New Zealanders and real difference for an industry. We have leading-edge innovation. We have a Labor Party committed to research and development. We have amongst the lowest levels of investment in research and development in New Zealand of the world. And that is a disgrace, overseen again by this government. We want public science backing wood development of wood plastic composites. We want building standards. We want procurement strategies, and all of these things are outlined in the Wood First policy announced by David Cunliffe today. These are the big changes, not the kind of tinkering that you'll find in this document. We have big plans, and that's the same with our savings policies. This superannuation policy, allowing the Guardians to delegate a bit of responsibility here and there, it is positive, but it's not the kind of change like universal KiwiSaver that Labor would introduce. We know that where they've had it in Australia, they've now got $1.7 trillion in retirement savings. And when a business is looking to invest, it's got support coming out its ears if it's got a good idea. Now in New Zealand, if you're wanting to start a business, you've got a good idea, I'm afraid that it's handing around the baseball cap for $20 notes from the family. And that's the difference. That's the vision for this government here. They're quite happy with that status quo, without savings, without the kind of economic structures, the long-term thinking that will see New Zealand grow the pie. And that is why the history tells us that National grow the economy slower than Labor. That's what the history tells us. That's what the history since World War II tells us. Black and white statistics, clear as day. They are after the tactical short-term penny pinching. We will grow the economy in the interests of all New Zealanders. We will share the gains. We will not grow inequalities like National does. We will produce value-adding in the forestry sector. We will lower power prices so all businesses can get ahead, so that families have lower power bills. We'll build houses. We'll make sure that they are warm. We'll partner with industry to build houses, and we'll make sure that there are warm, safe houses for all New Zealanders. We'll share the spoils across all people in this country, not just the wealthy few. Labor has a plan. We have long-term vision, strategic thinking, not the short-term tactical stuff that this arrogant, out-of-touch government has produced. We will ensure that any economic recovery benefits everybody, not just the privileged few. And that's the difference between the two main parties sitting here in this particular parliament, Mr. Speaker. They're prepared to watch the cost of living continue to go up. They're not prepared to make the big calls. They're prepared to do a bit of corporate welfare to Rio Tinto, a bit of a casino deal over here, this kind of thing, intervening in the market for broadband. They'll intervene here or there where they think there's their interests at stake. They'll do something for a golf game to get a big donation to charity, and there's more on that to come, I'm quite sure, Mr Speaker. Labor has the big ideas, the long-term view in the interests of New Zealanders. National are making short-term decisions and it's hurting New Zealand.
Mr Speaker.
I call the honourable member
Thank
Jonathan
you, Speaker.
Hayes.
Thank you, Speaker.